In the quiet countryside of Florida, where the trees stretched tall and wildflowers bloomed along the edges of the dirt road, 9-year-old Emily Carter enjoyed her afternoons like no one else. Her days were filled with the simple joys of childhood, chasing butterflies, climbing trees, and most of all, playing with her best friend, Max, a strong and loyal German shepherd with glossy black and tan fur and deep brown eyes full of trust. Emily lived with her father in a cozy, weathered farmhouse surrounded by acres of land, a patchwork of green grass, swaying oak trees, and thick woods just beyond the backyard. The house was old, filled with creaky wooden floors and the faint smell of pine, but it was home. Emily's father, Mark, worked long hours at a nearby hardware store, but he always made sure to check in on her before leaving and when he got home, trusting that the countryside was a safe place for his daughter to roam. This particular afternoon was perfect. The sun was warm but not too hot, casting a golden glow that filtered through the leaves, making patterns on the ground. A gentle breeze rustled the branches, carrying the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. Birds sang melodies from the treetops, and in the distance, a tractor hummed softly as it worked the fields. Emily was sitting on the wooden steps of the porch, coloring in her sketchbook. She loved to draw scenes from her backyard, the tall oaks, Max's playful antics, even the family cat, Whiskers, snoozing in the sun. Max lay nearby, panting happily. His ears perked up as he watched a squirrel scamper by. The dog was more than a pet. He was Emily's protector, her playmate, and her constant companion. Every day after school, Emily and Max would explore the yard together, inventing games and pretending they were on grand adventures. Today was no different. Emily was planning to build a small fort near the edge of the woods, and Max was eager to help, sniffing around for sticks and leaves to bring her. But behind the peaceful scene, there was a hidden danger waiting in the thick undergrowth at the yard's border. The dense trees and tall grass hid creatures that rarely revealed themselves, one of which was a Burmese python, a giant snake native to Southeast Asia, but increasingly found in Florida's wilds due to the exotic pet trade. The snake had been slithering silently through the underbrush, its smooth scales blending perfectly with the shadows. It was a massive specimen, nearly 12 feet long, with dark brown patterns running across its body. It moved slowly but with purpose, seeking food and shelter. The python's presence was unknown to Emily and her father. No one had seen it yet. As Max wandered closer to the edge of the woods, his nose twitching with curiosity, Emily called out to him, "Max, come here." But Max's attention was caught by something in the grass. His ears twitched as he sniffed deeply, and then he disappeared from sight for a moment. Emily felt a chill run down her spine, though she couldn't explain why. She stood up, shading her eyes against the sun, and scanned the area. At first, she saw nothing but the familiar green and brown of their yard. But then, from the corner of her eye, she spotted something moving, a flash of scales, barely visible. Her heart quickened. "Max," she called again, louder this time. Suddenly, a loud rustling burst through the bushes. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she watched the terrifying scene unfold. The massive python lunged out, wrapping its powerful coils tightly around Max's body. Max growled fiercely, struggling to break free, but the snake's grip was unrelenting. Emily's first instinct was to run inside and get help, but something inside her held her back. She couldn't leave Max trapped. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest, but she pushed fear aside. "No, Max, I'm coming," she shouted, grabbing the closest stick she could find. The peaceful afternoon had shattered in an instant. The woods no longer seemed safe, but Emily was determined, whatever it took, she would save Max from the python's deadly grasp. Emily's heart pounded fiercely in her chest as she raced toward the edge of the woods, clutching the stick she had grabbed from the ground. The sun, which had just moments ago felt warm and comforting, now seemed to burn hotter, as if mirroring the panic rising inside her. Max, her loyal German shepherd, was caught in the grip of a massive Burmese python, and Emily knew she had to act fast before it was too late. Max was growling low and fiercely, muscles straining as he tried desperately to break free from the snake's crushing coils. The python was enormous, nearly 12 feet long, its thick, muscular body wrapped tightly round Max's torso and legs. Its dark, camouflaged scales shimmered in the dappled sunlight, filtering through the trees. The snake's head was poised, eyes cold and calculating, its flickering tongue tasting the air. Emily's mind raced. She knew she had to be brave, but the fear gripping her felt overwhelming. She had read about snakes in books and seen them on TV, but this was real, right? In front of her. And the snake wasn't just any snake. It was a powerful predator that could crush and swallow a dog like Max Holdot. As she got closer, Emily shouted, "Let go of him, Max, fight." Max barked and growled, biting at the python's scales, but the snake's grip tightened with terrifying strength. The snake began to constrict more tightly, causing Max to whimper in pain. Tears sprang to Emily's eyes. She had never felt so helpless and scared, but she refused to give up. Suddenly, she remembered something from a science video she had watched in school about how constrictor snakes often release their grip if pressure is applied near their head or neck. With trembling hands, Emily swung her stick at the snake's head, hoping to startle it. The python hissed loudly and recoiled just enough to loosen slightly. Encouraged, Emily took a deep breath and raised the stick again, striking the snake's thick neck where it was most vulnerable. The snake writhed and hissed, but it didn't release Max. Emily's mind was racing for a better plan. Glancing around, she spotted a rock nearby, rough and jagged. Without hesitation, she dropped the stick and grabbed the rock, gripping it tightly with both hands. Max's frantic barking urged her on, summoning every ounce of courage she had. Emily raised the rock and struck the python's neck as hard as she could. The snake's body twitched violently and its grip loosened slightly. Max twisted free and bolted a few steps away, barking fiercely but clearly wounded. Emily's hands were scratched and bleeding from thorns and the snake's scales, but she didn't notice the pain. She just kept her eyes fixed on the retreating python, ready to act again if it returned. Suddenly, the snake gave one last hiss and slithered quickly back into the thick undergrowth, disappearing into the shadows of the woods. The terrifying moment passed, but Emily was still shaking. She ran to Max and knelt beside him, brushing away his fur and checking for injuries. Max whined softly, limping but alive. Emily wrapped her arms around him tightly, relief washing over her like a wave. "You're okay, Max. You're going to be okay," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. After a few moments, Emily's father, Mark, came rushing outside, alarmed by the noise. Seeing Emily and Max safe but shaken, he quickly took in the situation. Emily recounted the attack, her voice trembling but steady. Mark immediately called animal control to report the dangerous python in their yard. Neighbors soon gathered, whispering about the terrifying event. One neighbor, who had security cameras pointed toward Emily's yard, checked the footage and quickly realized they had captured the entire rescue. The video showed Emily bravely fighting off the snake to save Max, an act of courage that quickly caught the attention of the whole community. Emily sat on the porch steps, cradling Max, who licked her face gratefully. She still couldn't believe what had just happened. What started as a peaceful afternoon had turned into a battle for her best friend's life. But through it all, Emily had discovered a strength she never knew she had: courage, quick thinking, and an unbreakable bond with Max. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the yard, Emily and her father prepared for what would come next. The python was still out there, and this terrifying encounter was only the beginning. After the python disappeared into the shadows of the woods, Emily sat trembling beside Max, her hands trembling and bloodied but her spirit unbroken. She carefully examined Max's side where the thick coils had crushed him. Max winced, but wagged his tail faintly, trusting Emily's gentle touch. Her brave little heart was racing. She had just fought off a terrifying giant snake to save her best friend. The pain from scratches on her hands and arms didn't compare to the fear that gripped her moments before. She had never imagined herself as a hero. All she knew was that she couldn't lose Max. She whispered softly, "You're okay now, Max. I won't let anything hurt you." Emily's father, Mark, was still calling animal control when she noticed something strange. The woods had grown eerily quiet, Birds had stopped chirping, and the usual rustle of small animals was missing. It was as if nature itself held its breath after what had just happened. Mark's voice broke the silence. "They're sending someone right away." Emily nodded, her eyes still on Max, who was trying to stand but limping badly. She knew Max needed help and fast. As Emily waited, memories of what had just occurred swirled in her mind. She replayed the terrifying moment when the python lunged, how it had coiled around Max with such crushing power, the weight of the snake's body pressing against Max's ribs, the hiss that had echoed in the air, and her pounding heart, screaming for action. But then, Emily remembered the video from science class, the lesson about how snakes often loosen their grip when their head or neck is pressured. It had been a spark of hope in a moment filled with panic. When the stick she first grabbed wasn't enough, her courage pushed her to find the rock and hit the snake's neck again and again. Each strike was fueled by love and desperation. The memory of those swings made her feel proud that she didn't freeze, that she fought back for Max. Suddenly, a distant rumble broke Emily's thoughts. A truck pulled up the gravel driveway. Animal control had arrived. The officers jumped out, immediately assessing the situation with calm urgency. "Is the snake still here?" one officer asked Mark. "We think it retreated into the woods." Mark replied, "My daughter saved Max from being crushed." Emily's eyes widened. She felt a flush of embarrassment and pride. "I just hit it near the head," she said quietly. One of the officers nodded. "Smart move. That's often the best way to stop a constrictor." The officers began searching the area, setting traps and checking the brush for signs of the python. Emily and her father watched, grateful for the help but anxious about what might still be lurking in the woods. The local veterinarian arrived next, ready to treat Max's injuries. Max stood bravely as the vet examined the bruises and cuts, administering medicine and bandages. Emily gently held Max's paw, feeling his warmth and steady heartbeat. Max licked her cheek, his way of saying thank you. Emily smiled, fighting back tears. The bond between the two was stronger than ever. News about Emily's heroic rescue spread quickly through the neighborhood. Neighbors came by to check on them, bringing food and comforting words. Some shared stories of their own encounters with invasive snakes, how Burmese pythons had become a growing problem in Florida's wild areas, often escaping from exotic pet owners. Emily's father sat her down that evening, holding her hands gently. "You were very brave today, Emily. You saved Max's life. But we have to be careful. There could be more snakes out there." Emily nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her young shoulders. She had faced fear and fought back, and now she knew she was stronger than she ever imagined. That night, as Emily lay in bed with Max curled at her feet, she couldn't help but think about what had happened. The peaceful countryside had suddenly revealed a wild, dangerous side she hadn't known existed. But Emily also felt a quiet determination. She wasn't going to let this scare her or Max. Together, they would face whatever came next. Outside, the moon cast silvery light over the trees, where the python still waited, watching, silent and unseen. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, but Emily's mind was still racing from the afternoon's terrifying ordeal. She sat on the porch steps, cradling Max gently in her lap as the cool evening breeze brushed through her hair. Max's breathing was steady now, but the limp in his step reminded Emily just how close they had come to disaster. Her father, Mark, paced nervously near the driveway, occasionally glancing toward the dense woods where the python had vanished. "We need to make sure that snake doesn't come back," he muttered, worry etched deep on his face. "This isn't just a backyard pet, it's dangerous." The distant sound of sirens soon grew louder, breaking the eerie calm. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she watched animal control officers arrive in a large truck. Equipped with nets, traps, and heavy-duty gloves, they moved with practiced efficiency. Immediately setting to work, Mark spoke with one officer, pointing toward the thick underbrush where the snake had retreated. Meanwhile, Emily's curious neighbors gathered, whispering excitedly among themselves. One of them, Mrs. Jenkins, who lived 2 houses down, held out her phone. "I managed to get some footage from my security camera," she said. "You'll want to see this." Emily and her father huddled around the small screen as the video played. The grainy footage showed Max wandering near the tree line before the massive python struck. Then came Emily's heroic fight, swinging a stick and finally striking the snake with a rock near its head. Max broke free and dashed away, barking loudly. The video captured every heart-stopping second of the rescue, her bravery clear for all to see. As the news spread, local reporters began arriving, eager to cover the story of the Python Girl, the little girl who had saved her dog from a deadly snake. Cameras flashed, and microphones were thrust toward Emily as she shyly recounted the events. Her simple, honest words captured hearts nationwide. "I just wanted to help Max. I didn't want to lose him." The media attention was overwhelming, but Emily tried to focus on Max, who was resting quietly on a blanket in the living room. The veterinarian's care had stabilized him, but Max still needed time to heal from his bruises and cuts. Emily stroked his fur gently, whispering promises to keep him safe, but the story wasn't over. That evening, animal control officers returned with a wildlife biologist specializing in invasive species. The biologist examined the area and discussed the growing problem of Burmese pythons in Florida. "These snakes aren't native," she explained to Emily's father. "They've been released or escaped from captivity and are now threatening local wildlife. They can grow very large and are skilled hunters." Mark listened intently, worry deepening. "Is it common to find them near homes?" "Unfortunately, yes," the biologist replied. "As their population grows, encounters like this are becoming more frequent. That's why it's crucial to report sightings and prevent illegal exotic pet ownership." Emily, overhearing the conversation, felt a mix of fear and determination. This wasn't just about Max anymore. It was about the safety of her entire community. That night, Emily's house buzzed with activity as officials coordinated efforts to track and capture any remaining snakes. Emily stayed close to her father, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and pride. She had faced a terrifying challenge, but her actions had sparked something bigger, a community now alert and ready to protect itself. As Emily lay in bed, Max curled at her feet. The events replayed in her mind like a movie. She thought about the snake's cold eyes, the way Max had struggled, and her own fear transformed into courage. Tomorrow, she promised herself, she would learn everything she could about these snakes. She wanted to help others be safe. Outside, the night wrapped the countryside in darkness, but the forest was alive with unseen movement. Somewhere in those shadows, the python waited, silent and patient. Emily closed her eyes, gripping Max's paw, ready to face whatever came next. News of Emily's daring rescue of Max spread like wildfire beyond her small town in rural Florida. What began as a local incident quickly captured the attention of people all across the country, and even around the world. Emily's bravery, a young girl fighting off a giant python to save her beloved German Shepherd, was inspiring and heartwarming. The story touched a universal chord, the fierce love between a child and her dog, and the unexpected courage that can arise in the face of danger. Local news stations rushed to cover the story, airing footage from Mrs. Jenkins's security camera that showed Emily's quick thinking and relentless determination. Social media exploded with shares, likes, and comments, with many calling her a hero or Python Girl. Memes, articles, and videos proliferated online, praising the fearless little girl who had risked everything to protect her best friend. But Emily, shy and unaccustomed to the spotlight, found the sudden fame overwhelming. She preferred playing outside with Max or drawing in her sketchbook, not speaking in front of cameras. Her father did his best to shield her from the media frenzy, but they both knew this story was bigger than just their backyard. Scientists and wildlife experts began weighing in on the story, using Emily's experience as a way to highlight a growing ecological crisis: the invasion of Burmese pythons in Florida's delicate ecosystem. These non-native snakes were not just a threat to pets, they were devastating populations of native birds, mammals, and reptiles. Emily's encounter showed how these giant snakes were moving closer to residential areas, putting humans and animals at risk. The national conversation shifted. News outlets ran segments about invasive species and The dangers of releasing exotic pets into the wild. Emily's story was featured alongside interviews with biologists and conservationists, turning a personal rescue into a cautionary tale for all. At school, Emily was treated like a celebrity. Her classmates bombarded her with questions, some full of admiration and others curious about the snake. Her teachers praised her bravery, and the principal organized a special assembly to honor her courage. Even the local mayor sent a letter congratulating her, inviting Emily to speak at upcoming community events about wildlife safety. One afternoon, Emily was invited to a live television interview. Nervous but determined, she sat beside the host and recounted the day the python attacked Max. She described how she swung the stick, how she found the rock, and how fear turned into strength. The viewers saw not just a scared little girl, but a young hero whose quick thinking saved a life. Emily's father watched with pride from the green room, tears in his eyes. "You did amazing, Emily," he whispered. "You're stronger than you realize." The attention brought unexpected benefits. Local animal control received increased funding, allowing them to improve their response to python sightings and educate residents about how to stay safe. A non-profit organization dedicated to controlling invasive species reached out to Emily's family, offering resources and support to help spread awareness. But not all the attention was positive. Some people criticized the exotic pet trade itself, blaming careless owners who let dangerous animals escape or release them intentionally. Emily's story became a symbol of the consequences of these actions. There were calls for tougher laws and stricter enforcement to prevent similar incidents. Amidst the media storm, Emily remained focused on one thing: Max. She spent her afternoons helping nurse her dog back to health, grateful for every wag of his tail and every joyful bark. Their bond had grown stronger, forged in a moment of danger and love. Emily's story reminded everyone that courage isn't about size or age, it's about heart. In the face of a deadly python, a little girl fought with everything she had to save her best friend, and in doing so, she sparked a national conversation about safety, responsibility, and the fragile balance between humans and nature. As the days passed, Emily's life slowly returned to normal, but she knew that the python lurking in the woods was still out there, a silent threat, and she promised herself that she would be ready if danger ever came knocking again. The days following Emily's viral rescue story were a whirlwind, but amid the media attention and newfound fame, a deeper purpose began to take root in her young heart. The terrifying encounter with the Burmese python had awakened something inside her, a fierce determination not just to protect Max, but to help her community and the fragile wildlife threatened by invasive species. Emily's father, Mark, noticed the change immediately. His daughter, once content to spend afternoons lost in her sketchbook or playing in the yard, now spent hours reading books and watching documentaries about snakes, ecosystems, and conservation. Her questions grew sharper, and her desire to learn seemed endless. One afternoon, as Max rested comfortably beside her, Emily looked up from a book titled The Invasive Species Problem and said, "Dad, I want to help stop these pythons from hurting other animals or people. What can I do?" Mark smiled, pride swelling in his chest. "That's a big mission, Emily. But every big change starts with someone willing to try." Together, they reached out to the local wildlife biologist who had visited their home weeks earlier. Dr. Ramirez welcomed Emily's enthusiasm and invited her to visit the local conservation center. It was a place where experts studied invasive species, worked on removing them, and educated the public on how to live safely alongside Florida's unique ecosystem. At the center, Emily was introduced to traps designed to capture pythons, tools used to track their movements, and teams who went on patrols in the wild. She listened intently as Dr. Ramirez explained the delicate balance of Florida's wetlands, where native animals like raccoons, rabbits, and even endangered birds were at risk because of these giant snakes. Emily's eyes widened at the scale of the problem. "How many snakes are out there?" she asked. "Thousands," Dr. Ramirez said solemnly. "It's a growing crisis." Despite the seriousness, Emily felt a spark of hope. She volunteered to help spread awareness in her school and neighborhood. With Mark's help, She created colorful posters warning about the dangers of releasing exotic pets and explaining what to do if someone saw a python. She even began visiting classrooms, sharing her story and teaching kids how to stay safe. At first, she was shy, but as she spoke, her confidence grew. Her message was clear: respect nature, protect your pets, and don't underestimate the power of courage even when you're small. Emily's community rallied around her. Local schools invited her for assemblies, and the city council approved funding for more python removal programs. News outlets continued to feature updates, with Emily often at the center, not just as a survivor, but as a young advocate for change. Max, now fully recovered, remained her faithful companion. Together, they became local celebrities, often seen walking the trails with wildlife experts or attending community events focused on conservation. One evening, after a long day of talks and community meetings, Emily sat on the porch with her father, looking out over the darkening woods. "Do you think I can really make a difference?" she asked quietly. Mark squeezed her hand. "I already see you making a difference, Emily. You've inspired people, and sometimes that's the most important thing." The python, once a shadowy menace lurking in the forest, had transformed Emily's life. What began as a frightening attack had turned into a mission to protect others, to educate, and to fight for a safer future. As the stars twinkled overhead and Max rested at her feet, Emily felt ready for whatever came next. She knew that challenges lay ahead. Snakes still roamed the wilds and dangers remained. But with courage, knowledge, and the support of her community, Emily was prepared to face them head-on. The little girl who had saved her dog from a python was no longer just a victim of chance. She was a beacon of hope, a voice for the voiceless, creatures at risk, and a reminder that even the smallest among us can make a powerful difference. Life was settling back into a new normal for Emily and Max. The viral news coverage had quieted somewhat, and the community was better prepared for encounters with invasive pythons thanks to Emily's efforts and awareness campaigns. But the shadow of the python still lingered, an unseen threat hidden in the woods surrounding their home. One bright Saturday morning, Emily decided to take Max for a walk along the familiar nature trail that wound through the edge of their property. It was a place they had enjoyed for years: birds singing, butterflies fluttering, and sunlight dancing through the trees. After months of intense focus on her mission to fight invasive snakes, Emily hoped a peaceful walk might bring some much-needed calm. Max trotted happily ahead, his ears perked and nose to the ground. Emily felt a small smile tug at her lips as she watched him explore. She was more confident now, knowing how to respond if she ever encountered a python again. But as they moved deeper into the woods, Emily suddenly caught a flicker of movement. From the corner of her eye, a smooth, dark shape slithering slowly among the leaves and branches. Her heart froze. A python. Her body tensed instantly, muscles tightening as memories of the last attack flooded back. Max trapped in the crushing coils, the hissing, the desperate struggle to free him. But this time, Emily was ready. Slowly and carefully, she called Max back to her side. He came immediately, sensing the tension in her voice. Emily kept her eyes fixed on the snake, which was a smaller one this time, but still a formidable presence. The python paused, tongue flickering. As it sensed them, it wasn't attacking yet. It seemed curious, cautious. Emily realized this was a perfect opportunity to put everything she'd learned into practice. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small snake hook, a tool she had received during her visit to the conservation center. With steady hands, she used it to gently nudge the python away from the trail, directing it toward thicker brush where it could return to the wild without posing a danger. Max stayed close, watching silently. Emily's pulse pounded, but her voice remained calm and firm. "Good job, Max. We've got this." After a tense moment, the python slithered off into the undergrowth, disappearing from sight. Relief flooded Emily, but she also felt a rush of pride. She had faced her fear and controlled the situation without panic. That afternoon, Emily reported the sighting to Animal Control, who thanked her for her careful handling and assured her they would monitor the area more closely. The incident became another valuable piece of data in the effort to track and remove invasive snakes. Back at home, Emily told her father about the encounter. Mark hugged her tightly. "Proud of her courage and composure, you're becoming a real expert," he said. With a smile, Emily nodded, feeling stronger than ever. She knew that fear was natural, but it didn't have to control her. With knowledge and preparation, she could face even the scariest moments head-on. Her journey from terrified little girl to confident advocate was a testament to resilience and the power of love. Max, her loyal companion through every step, nuzzled her hand, reminding her that they were a team. As night fell, Emily sat by the window, gazing out at the dark woods beyond. The python was out there somewhere, but she no longer felt powerless. Instead, she was ready to protect, to learn, and to inspire others. Emily's story was far from over, but one thing was certain: no matter what challenges came her way, she would face them with courage, heart, and the unbreakable bond she shared with Max. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains as Emily woke up, feeling the familiar warmth of Max curled beside her. The last few months had been a whirlwind, from fighting off the python to becoming a local hero, to learning everything she could about invasive snakes. But today felt different. Today, Emily knew her story wasn't just about her or Max, it was about something bigger. At school, Emily was preparing for a special event organized by the local conservation group. They wanted to honor her bravery and use her story to inspire others to protect the environment and stay safe around wildlife. Emily's nerves fluttered in her stomach, but she reminded herself that this was her mission, to turn fear into hope. The auditorium filled quickly with parents, teachers, students, and local officials. Emily stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding, but her voice steady. She shared her story: the terrifying day the python attacked Max, the fight to save him, and the lessons she had learned since. She spoke about the importance of respecting nature, protecting pets, and understanding the delicate balance of Florida's ecosystems. Her words sparked a wave of applause. Many in the audience wiped tears from their eyes, moved by the courage of this young girl who refused to be defeated. Emily looked out at the crowd and saw hopeful faces, people ready to take action. Just like her, after the speech, Emily met with wildlife officers and conservationists who discussed new efforts to track and remove invasive pythons from the area. They unveiled plans for educational programs in schools and community outreach, ensuring that Emily's experience would lead to lasting change. Back at home, Emily's father held a small surprise: a photo album filled with letters, drawings, and messages of support from people all over the world. Some were from kids who said they felt braver because of Emily. Others were from scientists thanking her for raising awareness. Emily smiled as she read through the notes, feeling a deep sense of pride and connection. Max wagged his tail happily, sensing the celebration. He was more than a dog. He was her partner in this incredible journey. Together, they had faced fear and come out stronger. Days turned into weeks, and Emily continued her work, speaking at events, helping set up python traps, and sharing her story wherever she went. She also found time for normal kid things, playing with friends, riding her bike, and drawing pictures of Max and the woods. One afternoon, while exploring a new trail with her father and Max, Emily spotted something unusual: a smaller python caught in a trap set by the conservation team. Carefully, she watched as experts safely removed the snake and prepared it for relocation. It was a reminder that the battle against invasive species was ongoing and that every effort counted. Emily felt a surge of determination. This was not just a story of survival, it was a story of responsibility and hope. Years later, Emily's bravery remained a beacon for her community. She grew into a passionate advocate for wildlife conservation and education. Her story inspired new generations to respect the environment and act courageously in the face of danger. And whenever she walked through those woods with Max by her side, she remembered the day a giant python threatened to take everything away, and how a little girl's heart and courage had saved the day. Emily wasn't just the girl who saved her German Shepherd from a python anymore. She was a hero who turned fear into action, inspiring countless others to do the same. Her legacy was clear: bravery isn't about never being afraid. It's about standing up, fighting back, and protecting what you love, no matter how big. The challenge. And for Emily and Max, that was just the beginning.